Celsius water gives you energy.
Look at this branding. Essential energy accelerates metabolism, burns body fat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. All of my teammates last year like drank Celsius before practices because they were running on like fumes. But that's not to say it's a bad drink. It's just energy drink.
All right, we'll let Brenda start us off and then we'll take some questions for Abby.
Yeah, obviously, very excited. March, is the best time of the year. I feel obviously great the fact that we're peaking at the right time going into the tournament. But we also know and understand that it's one game at a time. You win, you advance, you get to move on, you lose, you go home. So I think for us, it's just continuing to keep playing great basketball. I've loved where we've been trending on both ends of the floor, both defensively and offensively. But now is taking the experience that we have on this roster and using that to our advantage with the understanding of how difficult. We were just saying as a staff, I mean, potentially our bracket, you could, have to beat 3 top 25 teams. That's where it's different this year. But at the same point, it allows you to be battle tested going into the NCAA tournament.
We'll take questions here in the room for Abby first.
Well, how do you guys prepare as a team when you don't necessarily know who, like, obviously, like Northwestern Hunters and Illinois times this year, beating them all, but how does like the unknown factor into your preparation for this week's games?
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily the unknown. It's more so if we don't know who we're going to play, we're going to focus on ourselves and we're going to get better in the areas that we've seen need to improve. And, that's with rebounding, with our defense, middle drives, all the good stuff. So I think it's just, obviously there's excitement with it, but I know that the coaches are going to get us prepared as best we can. They're going to maybe implement different things that maybe we'll see from potential teams, but that's up to them. And we're just going to play, practice, and get better. I mean, mentally, I think it definitely makes us more confident that we've seen these teams before. But then again, it's a new season, right? March is an entirely new season. You're gonna see different players step up in big moments, and you're gonna obviously see the great players continue to do their thing. But I think you got to treat each team as they're a new opponent. I think that's the mentality we need to come in with.
Have you Brenda mentioned at the right time? You guys have done that over the past few weeks. How do you guys, as players, focus on making sure that happens when you get out?
Yeah, sticking to the practice and game plans. Obviously, in the beginning of the season, we said okay, losing to South Carolina, that's okay. It's a great lesson, but we want to be peaking come end of February, March. And I think that's exactly what's happening. And that's just going to obviously help with our confidence. We know we have a great bench with Nay and Lav and so many good boosters off the bench. So I think that we're peaking at the right time. That's going to help our confidence and just overall preparation for the games.
Probably ask you a similar question about the NCAA tournament in a few weeks, but
yeah.
I came to Maryland to be in opportunities like this.
Yeah.
Be getting ready to go to have a chance to go out and win a Big Ten tournament. How excited are you for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's happening, right? That's exactly what I wanted from a program to put, myself in a position where I can be a part of a great team that has the capabilities of going far in tournament play. And obviously we have to keep our sights in the present, focus on one game at a time, and just play each game like it could be our last.
Challenges going with so many new players, you're going into the program, a lot of different people as well. As you went through the year, and there had to be a lot of unexpected moments. Just think, what has that journey been?
I remember the beginning of the season, just when we'd be practicing every day, playing all the time, and not yet actually playing games. And I would just have conversation with Diamond, Shy, Faith, and be like, I'm trying to learn you guys. I'm trying to read you. Like, when you drive, like, where do you want me to be? And there was frustration with it for sure. But I think now I haven't had that conversation, for months, because I feel like we're just gelling really well. We know how to play. We're accepting how we play with each other. And, it's just been fun. It's been a great opportunity. And, I know I'm excited for how we're gonna mesh well in the tournament.
Is there a moment for you when it fits?
UConn game.
watch.
UConn
Obviously.
That's I just think that, I mean, obviously it's always great to play at home with an incredible home base, but we beat a really good team, greatly coached, and I think that we did that with all of our pieces, not just one individual person. And I think that's when I realized that we have not only the offensive capabilities, but the defensive capabilities to really get the job done against a good team. And that's kind of when, yeah, felt like it clicked.
What's maybe the mindset going into this one, knowing that you're gonna get to where you wanna get, you might defeat three ranked teams to the top 16, but what's the mindset going into that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the Maryland mindset, right? We've played these top 10, top 15 teams many times, and we've beat many, we've come close with many. So I think that, as Coach said, we've had many lessons throughout the regular season, and we're just going to approach them as, we're going to be prepared as possible, and we're ready to, tackle any challenge ahead of us.
Another one for Abby. Some of your teammates have kind of talked about how they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder this year. Do you guys feel like
Yeah.
you were a bit underestimated going into the season? What are your thoughts on that, especially as Big Ten for
Yeah. I mean, personally, I've always been an underdog, so I love having a chip on my shoulder, and I know many of the teammates do as well. And I think that just gives us that edge, that dog mentality that, no matter what's in front of us, we're gonna attack it straight on together. And I think, yeah, that's kind of, we're just excited, and we're excited to make a name for ourselves. I know that many people underestimated us throughout the season, but we've, beat some amazing teams, and we're already making, setting ourselves up for success.
You mentioned that big shot a bit. Obviously yesterday, you really recognized, how big that for you. Coming home, kind of getting to that, how much of that you feel very important for the transition from players who are now to be recognized?
Super grateful for that recognition, and it's job's not over yet, right? It's great to see your hard work pay off, but we're far from it. We gotta keep winning.
Take a couple on Zoom. Go ahead, Damon.
Hey Abby, you're from MoCo. You've spoken in the past about your love for the Maryland program. What are your thoughts going into your first Big Ten tournament?
Yeah, Minneapolis. I'm excited to go back there. Last time I was there was for Big Ten Media Days. It's kind of full circle, and I'm just gonna take in the atmosphere. I know my parents are gonna be there, so it's just gonna be a special moment. And can't wait when we leave Sunday with the trophy.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kareem.
Hey, what's up, Abby? How are you?
Hey, great.
Quickie for you. You kind of touched on it when you're talking about UConn. You mentioned the defense, and I want to ask you about that. What has kind of stood out about the evolution of you guys on that side of the ball this year, where you guys are now kind of at the point where you're able to do so many different things defensively and give so many looks? How did that, I guess, kind of grow and develop across over the course of the season?
Yeah, I think that's just buying into the systems, the defensive mentality of our team, and realizing that we can have a great offense, but if we don't have the defensive capabilities, we're not going to be able to beat these, top 10, top 5 teams that we're going to see down the road. And I think that it definitely comes with, having new players where they come from maybe a background where defense was that big thing for that program. And I know for me, I've always valued defense, and it's a work in progress for me every day, but we just take pride in our one-on-one. We don't want to get beat, and when we do, we gotta fix it, right? So yeah, it's gonna be big for us come the tournament play.
And just a quick follow, how much, you mentioned players kind of coming in from other places, how much the fact that you guys are, you may be new, but you guys are older and veterans and upperclassmen, does that allow for you guys to kind of, does that help in that process that, you guys have, it's not new to you, I suppose?
Yeah, I always think it helps when you have prior experience in these atmospheres. There's just I always say that there's just a new feeling and vibe to approaching these games. You get a little bit more butterflies in the stomach, your adrenaline just picks up a little bit more. And I know for me, I'm going to be really excited. But yeah, it's definitely helpful that, we have a bunch of players with prior experience in these kinds of positions.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go to Dylan and then wrap up with Sam.
Hey, Ab. I when you were talking about, those conversations you were having with your teammates in the beginning of the season, you're saying like, I'm trying to learn you guys. Is that something you did at Princeton as well? Is that how you try to get familiar with your teammates?
Yeah, no, I think that, right, when you come to a new program with limited time with the teammates, you're trying to learn them as fast as you can before season. I think at Princeton it was more structured, right? So it's less learning the players, because here coach gives us the freedom and the green light to kind of create for ourselves and have the backbone of our offense through different plays. But really we have to, create those opportunities for ourselves. And I think that's really, I think it requires you to really learn your players, your teammates more, and what their tendencies are. So I think it's been a little tougher here than prior, but I think, we're all learning fast, and it's clearly showing.
Yeah, you're also at Princeton a little longer. I wanted to also ask, like, you and also coach have talked about, peaking at the right time and how this is, the right time. I'm curious, like, if you could point out specifically what peaking on the court actually looks like.
Okay, here's an example. Us learning how to start games strong, right? Being consistent with that, having the other team call the timeout first. We've seen that a lot. And I think another peaking is being able to control runs, being able to dictate the pace of the game the way we want to dictate it. And I think that's been more consistent throughout the 40 minutes for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Ab. Good luck.
And we'll wrap up with Abby with Sam.
Hey, Abby. Just wanted to ask, for a player, you guys kind of can play multiple different teams in a tournament setting like this. What is the scout like for you guys? How do you go about that? Do you scout both teams if they play before you? Do you watch, how do you watch film? Like, what's the process for you?
Well, that's a question for the coaches. As of right now, we've been focusing ourselves and trying to get us in the best position we can for the tournament play. Sorry, Sam, I don't have an answer to that one.
You're good. And then just to follow up, you've seen some of these teams now a couple times, potentially who you're going to play. Does that help, you think, or does that also sometimes, say you have to beat a team, twice, if you're playing them a third time, you've kind of gone, like potentially Iowa, you've seen them now 2 times. Is that kind of like you guys know each other so well, or is that something that, since you have more of an extended break, you think you could throw some new wrinkles in? Like, what's that difference like playing a team, for that third, second, time in the season?
Right. I think it helps, but then again, they've also seen us play a few times. They've played us a few times, so we're kind of approaching it, kind of on an equal level. But I think that, we're just gonna watch our film. We're gonna continue to learn their tendencies, and we're gonna come as prepared as possible. But yeah, I think I definitely think it helps, having played them prior, but they've also played us, so we're kind of even.
Thanks, Abby. Appreciate it. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Great. We'll take some questions for Abby in the room. Start off. Abby, for coach. Yeah.
Coach, similar to what I talked to Abby about, his team, they're talking about having a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Looked back on a conversation I had with Brenda preseason media day, and she's like, going into this year, I want to win the Big Ten tournament because we didn't last year and it stung. How are you feeling about this team's mentality coming into the tournament?
I think it's at an all-time high. I think they've proven that time and time again, just with the, tough games that we've played, the schedule, the conference being the best it's ever been. So it's the toughest now going in the tournament than it's ever been. And again, I'll continue to say it reminds me of the 2006 year when we had to beat each other up in tournament play and had 3 teams in the Final Four. So I hope it unfolds that way. We'll see what happens, but this one is going to be whoever earns this conference championship is going to have gone through 3 elite games, 4 elite games to be able to come out on top.
I think that when you play so many multiple times, Iowa,
bad loss in a big win at Ohio State, big win at a smaller out, or is that a bit of a way that's come to the postseason play, just to know how to win, how to get down?
It's tremendous. The best teams I've ever coached understand that element, that every game is going to be different, and even the game within the game. I mean, your first half could turn drastically different to the second half, and I think this team has really figured that out in this last month of February. I think again the byproduct of the schedule, but I think it's crucial for what lies ahead.
As me asking when to click for her at UConn, she said, how about for you? When did you see that this is going, I think this is going to get where we want to go because that just happened?
Yeah, I agree. UConn, that was the game that I felt like the ultimate level of trust and really this kind of joy and freedom that the team played with. You could just kind of see it all unfold. I mean, up to that point, it had kind of been a yin and a yang, a grind that they were working through, and still found a way to have big wins at Baylor and Notre Dame, but coming back and just seeing how much everything was clicking on both ends of the floor was definitely the UConn game.
We learned over the years from the conference, working with your playing the familiar teams. You want to maybe show them a new wrinkle, something they haven't seen before, versus this is what we do best. We need to make sure that that's what we hammer. How do you balance that out? What do you learn about that?
I don't know as much as you have to make sure, like when you talk about wrinkles, that your team is playing free. And so, I know I tested back in the day before the tournament, putting all new, some sets in, and when you haven't done that all year, it doesn't work. So it's just really fine tuning the things that you really need to work on, and just going out and being who you are, and I think consistently we've shown who that is. And obviously you got to be able to get stops and be able to make shots, and it really comes down to those details here in March.
Talked a lot about peaking, and I asked Abby about it as well. Do you feel like, even though you guys are peaking right now, do you feel like this team has a higher peak to reach? Obviously, maybe it needs to be at the point where you guys want to be, but I guess compared to where they were at the beginning of the season, where they are now, do you see a path of continued improvement, and maybe a chance to do that in Minneapolis?
This group is really hungry, so the sky's the limit. As you just did now, I think you're seeing all the confidence coming together, but it's an extremely high level of trust. I was saying to our staff, the last game at Ohio State, the microphone was under the basket, and our communication right now, it makes me very excited, because like that was missing in the past defensively, and now they're very connected on that end of the floor. So that bodes well when you're talking about needing that level of intensity.
Like almost every season we're saying this is Brenda's best coaching job yet, which is the challenges that you guys faced off seasons, and what you guys have had to do this year. Has it felt challenging to you this year? Has this team just felt challenging than others? Because maybe the way you guys have played recently doesn't seem like it, but has this team like a challenge?
No question. I can't say enough about our staff. I think we all knew coming into the season, it felt daunting. It was just knowing that it was an overhaul of so many faces, new offensive system that we wanted to play to our strengths with so many great perimeter players. And it wasn't pretty back in the preseason and in those practices. So credit to these players buying in, trusting, working, and to put themselves in these positions. I put it on them. I mean, we're just there to kind of put them in positions to be successful, but they have to execute it. And they've been super resilient this year. So no question, it's going to go down as probably one of my most probably favorite teams to coach, because they're just so motivated and driven.
Minnesota's probably a little closer to your event, right? You have your mom.
Yeah, a ton of family, mom, siblings, easy drive. So yeah, for the Frese family, it'll be an easy commute. Not so much probably for the Maryland fans, but I know we have our diehards that'll be out there. She's working to come up tomorrow.
You can talk about how many ranked teams were on the schedule, hoping that would prepare you for the postseason. I'm assuming you feel like that has prepared you for this moment. Big Ten run in the NCAA.
Oh, it really has. And, we've been in close games, down to the wire, have to get a stop, have to get a score. And so many ranked teams that I don't know how this group wouldn't go into, postseason here now in March with just the utmost confidence.
Coach, was there like a moment in practice or like pregame where you just looked at the team? Like it really was an example of how like hardworking and dedicated this group is?
A moment, say that again, a moment in
Practice or one of the pregame warm-ups that maybe fans wouldn't have seen on the TV, but just like outside the coast.
I think it's more, I would say in general, responses. And, I think when you talk about like, especially in February, these last two stretches of 3 games in 7 days, and turn around like they were able to do from losing at Iowa to then their response to 3 days later to play Ohio State and have the convincing win, and then turning around with the Iowa game as well. So it's more from their end is like sometimes you'll see in a loss teams lose confidence. This team has been extremely driven after the Nebraska loss, took it to heart and used it as motivation.
Usually with overhaul, like even they still have shot at they return. And can you see obviously they about that not a big get yesterday? Can you kind of speak about their impact on helping assemble this group and how they promote themselves, their teammates, speaking, help them help this team.
It couldn't happen to 3 better players. And when you just talk about what separates those 3 is their loyalty, their how much they bleed putting on the Maryland uniform. And those 3 have obviously allowed our culture to remain intact. And I think that's the biggest piece is when you have 3 culture kids like those 3, it's pretty special what you can accomplish. And all 3 of them have done that.
Prepare for 3 teams you could possibly play on Friday. Having the same thing. Is it really just focusing on yourselves, or you kind of scouting?
Yeah, for us, our staff is obviously extremely prepared for however anything is going to unfold, and working tirelessly behind the scenes. For them, they're student athletes. They need to take care of their academics, recover, eat right, sleep right, and then we'll have them ready when we know which team that we're presenting. Now, do we in our practices we have hidden things within those practices of how we're preparing, so we're ready for whoever we face proactively. But I think from both ends, they just have to continue to be who they are.
We'll take a couple on Zoom. We'll go to Kareem.
Hey, Brenda, how are you?
Hey, Kareem.
I just wanted to ask about the defense real quick. You've mentioned it briefly a couple times, but I'm curious, what has stood out about the growth from the beginning of the season to where you guys are now, where you guys are able to kind of mix up so many different looks and adjust, team by team and even within game by game?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal to coach, because like you're saying, and we can change defenses, man, zone, box and one, press. And so I think that's what's allowed us to be able to throw off a lot of opponents, and we're really able to be scout specific based on what we see. So credit again, these guys, just in their trust and their understanding, and really a high IQ and their effort. I mean, a year ago we were coaching effort. This year we don't have to coach effort. And I think that's been, the why the defenses have been so successful is we're able to throw a lot of different looks because they play so hard.
Does it help? And this was what I was trying to get to with Abby. Having veterans, does that allow you to do more in those facets, considering they're upperclassmen who've kind of been through that, and also additionally, does that help kind of during this time of the year, having people with that type of experience?
Yeah, it really does. They've, you would expect. I mean, most of these guys that are playing have been in the program, programs and systems 4 or 5 years, and then when you get a Diamond, Faith, and Shy, they've been in our system. So they've also seen it. So definitely a big advantage.
Perfect. Thank you. See you in a little bit.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Damon.
Hey, Coach. We've had several games this year come down to the very end. As you all head into the Big Ten, you all's Big Ten tournament opener on Friday, has there been an added emphasis on late game execution? During practices leading up to this week's game.
Yeah, I mean, it has been all season. And we do a lot of different things within our practices and continue to do that. We broke down our late game against Ohio State and things we like, things we didn't like. So we're constantly sometimes pulling from other teams and whether that be film, whether that be on the court. So just continuing to utilize that because we know how important that is in March.
And you all were 11-2 from Xfinity this year and 2-1 on neutral grounds. How impactful do you expect those road victories that you all had this season to play a role going into the Big Ten tournament in Minnesota this week?
Yeah, I think all of it is great preparation for going on the road and being on a neutral court and helping us in the NCAA tournament. That's why you play those games and for great preparation for now.
Thank you.
Yep.
And we'll wrap up with Sam.
Hey Brenda, was just wanting to ask you the question I asked Abby, kind of about your scout preparation for a tournament like this. What's that look like? Do you have different coaches watching, like say for this Thursday, you're going to have teams playing. Do they watch each team's film and just kind of you prep for both? How do you go about that?
Yeah, we have an advanced scout with Jess, and I came in today and, her with that appropriate assistant coach had every, scout ready, and then they add as games go on. But our staff, they all had different, when you talk about the Big Ten, they were assigned, different scouts, Iowa, Ohio State, Nebraska. So as they had those during the season, they now have them in the tournament. So, unfortunately you could have a back-to-back scout depending on if that was your scout during the season, but they've been grinding like they all have all season long, and they're behind the scenes getting everything prepared.
How much of for a tournament like this, when you're playing teams that you're familiar with, do you really try to emphasis with the players is kind of just like, let's play our game and we've seen this team before, you kind of know what it is, and how much of it is like, really getting them in the film room and watching, opponents and that type of thing? Is there a difference between how you treat a regular season game versus a tournament style? Or?
It's kind of like when we played over Thanksgiving. When you play 3 games in 3 days, it's quick. I think it's easier, not easier tournament, but it's easier of a dust off because you know the personnel, you know the sets, but it's quick turnarounds. I mean, with us, our first game, whoever plays is going to be the night before. We won't have film until that day of the actual game because it's going to be so late. So it's a quick turnaround, but fortunately, we've played these games, these teams. So, it's just preparing them how we want, some wrinkles, what we want to do, but personnel wise and set wise, they're going to know really well.
Thanks, Coach.
Great, thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.